welcome to episode 19, I think, of the What Shara Made podcast. I have been pretty busy doing a little bit of monogamous knitting, trying to actually get some things finished because I've been writing a few patterns and I needed samples and just to test the pattern in general as well. So I've got a few FOs and I've still got a few whips, of course. And I might just start with my whips. You might remember this whip from some time ago, probably one of the very first episodes I would have shown this whip. It's still a whip, I still haven't finished it. It is coming along, although it still doesn't look all that interesting because I'm still on the plain body part. I'm getting a strange shine from the light there, so apologies for that. It is a pattern called the Lacy Baseball Tee, and doesn't look particularly lacy or baseball-y at this stage. It's knit in Knit Picks Cotlin, which is a cotton linen blend, and initially I was quite enjoying knitting it, but I put it on hold because I had more urgent things that needed finishing. And the more I work on it, the more I don't love the yarn. It's not harsh or scratchy or anything like that, but I can only assume it's the linen that's resulting in things like that, and it's like quite fibrous plant material and they're prickly, and it's all through the yarn. Like I'll knit about 5 stitches and then I've got to pull a bunch of these fibrous plant things. I think it's plant. I guess it's plant because both cotton and linen come from plants. And that gets a bit tiresome, and then at one stage I thought maybe I'll just leave them in there and I'll pick them out if they get itchy, but I can feel it in my hands as I'm working the piece, all those prickly little bits of plant in there. So not sure how nice it is going to be to wear with all those little prickles in it, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be just fine and I won't even notice it. But I've been trying to finish it off because if it's not prickly, I would really like to have the finished piece. So I had a few false starts with this. I checked my tension, my gauge, before I began, and it matched what was outlined in the pattern, and I chose my size accordingly in the pattern and started it, and it was at least 20 centimetres too big, maybe even more. So I went down a size, still miles too big, so now I'm knitting the smallest size in the pattern, which I would never normally do. And it's still going to be on the loose side, so I don't know if there was an error perhaps in the listing of the gauge requirements, or if there was an error perhaps in the listing of the how much positive ease I should be expecting. But in the picture on the pattern there appears to actually be a tiny bit of negative ease on the piece that the model is wearing in the picture, so I'm not really sure what the deal is there. My gauge is still correct according to the pattern, but yeah, it's still huge, but I guess we'll see. I have to wait and see. So that is my first whip that I've got to show you. My second whip is actually it's a half object, but still essentially a whip. My hand-spun socks. You might remember from last episode I said I'd knit a whole sock in my hand-spun sock yarn, and I unravelled the whole sock because it was too small. Not so much lengthwise, but the actual circumference of the sock was just too small. So I unravelled it and I started it again, and I started using the stitch pattern from the Blueberry Waffle sock pattern because I quite liked it. So here is my half object, my half finished sock. It's quite nice. The actual fabric that it's made is just beautiful. You can get a pretty good idea of the actual texture there. It's so nice and soft and squishy and warm. I can't wait till they're finished and I can wear them. And then I've got a cuff on the second sock. Now I did not weigh my yarn before I started knitting, which was foolish, and then I weighed this sock and then weighed my remaining yarn, and the remaining yarn was a few grams less than the finished sock. So I might have to make the second sock a bit shorter in the cuff than the first sock, but it doesn't really matter, they're just for me. And if worse comes to worse, I guess I will maybe end up doing the end of the toe in a different yarn. Oh well, never mind. And they are living presently in my Fringe Supply Co. field bag, which I'm madly in love with. I really, really do love it, and I love it so much that I won't leave it in the car, just in case the car gets broken into. Oh my god, that would be devastating. So if I'm going somewhere where I know I'm going to leave knitting in the car, I'll take a different project bag. I won't take this one. And my next whip is actually a spinning whip. Earlier in the year, I decided that I love all my spinning, but I seem to just be spinning like 100-gram batches of a particular fibre or colour of fibre, and there's only so much you can do with 100 grams of hand spun, and I've already got a billion hats. I'm sure you can relate to that, and I don't really wear cowls, and if I made mittens and gloves, well, once again, there's only so many pairs you can wear, and then I'd have lots left over. I wouldn't know what to do with all those tiny bits of hand spun, and they're not quite enough to make a whole shawl, but you could sort of combine two lots and make a striped shawl or multicoloured shawl, but I was running out of ideas of what to do with my hand spun, simply because of the amounts. So I decided I would spin enough to knit myself a sweater. And I've got a pattern in mind, which is one of my patterns that's at present just in my head. I haven't written it out, but I will. And it requires DK weight yarn. And so far I haven't successfully spun a proper DK weight yarn. I tend to be a bit of a fine spinner, so most of my yarn, hand spun yarn, is about a finger in weight after plying. So I've been trying really hard to spin this one much thicker. This is the first 200 grams of it, and I've still got another 600 grams to spin. No, sorry, I've still got another 400 grams to spin, I think. Anyway, it's not important. It's thicker than my usual yarn that I spin, but it's not quite a DK, and I might just have to rejig the pattern to make it work, but you can see there. And this is some merino fibre with flex in it. It has flex in it. I don't know if that's apparent in this footage. And I hand dyed it as well prior to spinning, obviously. And what I really wanted was a really dark bottle green. And clearly that is not what I got. I kept adding dye and adding dye and adding dye, and it just would not get any darker. This is the darkest green I could get, and it's really not what anyone would describe as a dark green at all. I'm not sure where that flare is coming from. Apologies, that big stripe down the middle of the screen. Yeah, so it's certainly not a dark green. That's probably somewhat accurate. It's a light or medium turquoisey green with flecks of purple in it. So anyway, they're all pretty much the same colour, and they will be when I spin them up together. So anyway, that's the best I could do with that. But I'm really happy with the colour. It's just not the colour I intended. So I'll keep spinning away on that. My initial plan was to have this yarn spun up in time for me to knit myself the cardigan I want to make from this yarn before I go to a little fibre festival, I guess. It's probably too small to call it a festival, but a gathering of fibre vendors in my local city. And that was my plan, to wear it there. But this is all I've spun so far. No, I need enough for a cardigan. So I might be pushing my luck to get it finished by the end of May. I don't know. I'll give it a red hot go. And my next whip. No, I don't have one in there. Well, I'll tell you about a little dyeing experiment that I did. And I might have told you about this in the last episode because I was doing it at the time I was filming. And I have some beautiful locally milled alpaca merino blend yarn that one of my friends, Mel, organised. She got the fleeces and had them milled in a local mill, and they're beautiful. And they came in two colours: the natural undyed cream or white, and a natural undyed caramel colour, and they're both gorgeous. And I bought quite a few skeins, and I was going to make the Waiting for Rain shawl with the white alpaca merino blend, and I was going to dye it with a local native indigo plant that I have in my garden. And I wanted to just dye one skein first to see how it would work out and if it was going to take up the indigo successfully, and just to see what I was going to get. I didn't want to do my whole batch all at once and then discover it wasn't great. So I did an experiment where I popped some of the indigo in a pot on the stove and boiled it up, and I popped my hank of yarn in, and it started to go a little bit grey. It wasn't going blue or purple like my previous native indigo experiments, and it wasn't looking that great. And it just so turned out that probably 2 days before I was doing this dye, someone else in the household decided that they would prune that indigo bush, and they threw all the pruning trimmings away, and so there wasn't a whole lot left on the plant, and I didn't want to pick too aggressively from the plant because it was already under stress from the intense pruning. So that sort of put that on hold a little bit, and I couldn't get enough indigo to get a satisfactory colour. So I decided to experiment with some other leaves and things from my garden to see if they would produce an interesting colour. And probably the most prominent, most widely available one in my garden that I knew was going to give some sort of colour was some eucalyptus leaves from a big eucalyptus tree out the front of my house, and it had been really, really windy the day before, so there were heaps of branches, small branches, and fresh eucalyptus leaves all over the yard. So I went around and gathered them all up, and I put those in my pot as well, and came up with this quite beautiful caramel colour. And it smelled really nice as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the scent of eucalyptus, but it's pretty good. It's still got a little hint of eucalyptus in it, even though it's been washed. And this is the colour that it came up with. That's quite accurate. And whilst this is a lovely colour, beautiful botanical dye, it just so happens to be pretty much identical to the natural caramel colour of the alpaca. So whilst they're not identical, they're basically the same. So I dyed one of my white skeins so it was the same colour as the caramel skeins. So I don't know what to do with this. I don't know whether I should over dye this with some acid dyes that I have, or give it another go with some other botanicals and see what happens. But yeah, so anyway, I just made some to match the original colour. But not quite enough of a match so that they could be used together, of course. But yeah, I don't know how well you can see they're pretty similar. Oh well, you've got to experiment and try these things, don't you? So you can find out whether they're going to work or not. And while it's not a complete failure, it was not entirely a success either. So there's that experiment. And something else I've been doing a little bit of recently, this year, is I've done a few swaps. A couple with some other podcasters, and some with some viewers of the What Shara Made podcast, and one of them was from the lovely Sandra from the Craftfulness podcast, and she's in the Netherlands, and we sent each other our swaps, I think pretty much on the same day actually, and hers might have arrived to her within about 2 weeks, I think, which was quite fast, and thankfully she really liked it. And hers didn't arrive for a really long time, and we were worried that it may have gotten lost in the mail, and I didn't mind waiting at all, even though I was really excited about it. And waiting, and then eventually after 49 days, which is a long time to wait, it arrived, and it was well worth the wait. It was beautiful. And one of the things that was in that beautiful swap was this project bag that I've been using quite a lot. Let's see there. And I believe some of the fabric is vintage fabric that Sandra had. She's quite a vintage fabric collector, which is quite cool. And some of it was modern fabric, like this foxy fabric here, which is so adorable. It's got a gorgeous lining as well. It all matches. And a beautiful progress keeper. I don't know if you can see what that is. A little heart with wings. It's so sweet. And this is the perfect size for socks. That's what I've been using it for. It's been my go-to sock bag, and I can just pop it in my big bag when I'm heading out, and it's the perfect size. I absolutely love it. And Sandra sent me all sorts of amazing things actually in that package, but I just realised I left the gorgeous yarn that she hand dyed for me in the other room, and I can't go and get it now. Sorry. So I'll show that to you in another episode because it's really beautiful. I think you'll enjoy looking at it. And Sandra actually has an Etsy shop where you can buy all her marvellous things as well, and I'm pretty sure it's called Craftfulness on Etsy, but I'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can go there as well. And someone else that sent me a beautiful package in the mail was Melissa from the Spicy Homemaker podcast, and we didn't actually do a swap as such because she sent me something marvellous, but I haven't sent her anything. But I have been having a lot of fun collecting some treasures to send Melissa's way, which has been really exciting to do actually. And she sent me lots of beautiful things, one of which was this amazing fleece, fibre, sorry. It is, oh my god, I don't know if you can see the shiny bits on there. There's silky shiny sort of sparkly bits on there. They're not really, they're intensely sparkly and shiny in real life, but they're not really showing up on the screen. But how gorgeous are these colours? Oh my god, I cannot wait to spin this. It will have to wait until after my cardigan spin, but it's 65% merino and 35% nylon sparkle, and the colourway is tourmaline, and it's by I'm not going to be able to pronounce this properly, Frabjou Fibres. Let's just show you here and you can read that for yourself. So that is just gorgeous. And I think it's hand dyed in Vermont. And I'm really excited about getting to spin that. Oh my god, it's so pretty. If I can spin it beautifully enough, I have the perfect hand spun that it will pair magically with to make a gorgeous shawl. So I am looking forward to that. And something else that Melissa included in that package was 2 skeins of Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift. Isn't that beautiful? I love that colour so much. Oh, that is gorgeous. And this colour as well, the purple. Oh. And I love these colours together. This one is called Sphagnum, like sphagnum moss, I presume. And this purple one is called Foxglove. And I think they will make a beautiful colour work piece together. I know that this Jamieson Spindrift really works well in colour work because it's a little bit sticky. So that's an ideal yarn to use for colour work. Oh my god, I can't wait to make that into something gorgeous. I don't know whether I'll make maybe a colour work hat or perhaps some spectacular colour work gloves or mittens. I don't know yet, but it's going to be gorgeous, and that'll be the first time I've used any Jamieson's yarns, so I'm pretty excited about that. Now, in my other swap that I did with a viewer of the podcast who wants to remain anonymous, but she knows who she is, she contacted me via Ravelry, and we were having some great chats and conversations, and she was telling me all about where she lives and I was telling her all about where I live, and it was really enjoyable. And then we decided to do a swap, and she sent me the most spectacular swap package I've ever seen. It was huge, for starters. I couldn't believe it. I'd had a really long day and it not been a brilliant day, and when I got home I had that amazing package waiting for me. And it was really exciting. It was like Christmas, opening it all up, and she'd wrapped all the things individually, so I had all these presents to open, and it was really exciting. And I won't show you everything because some of them I'd like to just keep between her and me, because it was really special. She put a lot of thought into it. But some of the things I think you'll like to see are these yarns that she included amongst all the other beautiful pieces. And this one here is by Gecko Yarns, and they're on Etsy at geckoyarns.etsy.com, and I'll also put a link to that in the show notes. And this one is, the colourway is called Mossy, and it's 2 plies of non-superwash merino and 1 ply of superwash merino. And so you can see there sort of that mild effect that the 2 different types of fibre plied together give, because superwash yarn and non-superwash yarn take up dye differently. So that's how you get that almost a barber poling effect there, and I love it so much. And it's 100 grams of sock weight or fingering weight, but I probably wouldn't use it for socks simply because it doesn't have any nylon in it, and I would hate for them to wear through quickly, and then that beautiful yarn might be spoiled. So it's intensely soft, and oh god, it's so nice. So I think I might make that into some sort of spectacular shawl for myself. And of course the colour. Oh, never met a green yarn I didn't love. So that is so beautiful. So thank you very much for that. And the other one is by Sonoran Desert Dyed Fibres. I may have butchered that name, apologies. And fibre dyed with Sonoran desert plants done naturally. So of course I love it. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous grey colour, and it's called, the dye source is black bean. So you get a really beautiful grey that's got just the slightest hint of a purple or blue in it, and I just love it. I love it. I've dyed with black bean before, and this one came up a lot prettier than mine. And the fibre is 75% British BFL and 25% nylon, so I think this may definitely become socks. It is so cool. I just love it. Check it out. It's actually coming up a little warmer on the screen than it is. It's quite a cool grey, and it's just beautiful. Love it. Goes quite nicely with this. So thank you very much for that. I'm so excited to have that, and I can't wait to start using it. And now I think I can get on to FOs. I'm actually wearing an FO, but it's an old FO. I probably made this maybe 2 or even 3 years ago. It's a pattern from my head. Once again, the most popular source of patterns for me, as you know. And it's a yarn called Stonewash XL by a Dutch company, the name of which I can't pronounce, so hopefully I will put it here on the screen. I'll definitely link to it in the show notes if I've forgotten to put it down here. And it's a cotton blend yarn, and it's a bit of an unusual yarn in the way that it is I presume, a nylon knitted tube, really fine knitted tube, and the cotton fibres are air blasted into the tube, and that makes the yarn. It's a very unusual yarn. It was pretty cool to work with. I really enjoyed it. The only thing that wasn't excellent was trying to weave in the ends when you finish a piece, and it's very hard to push the the yarn back through the nylon tube, and it was really hard work to weave in the ends. So that was something that would maybe perhaps deter me from using it again. But I quite like it. I like it. I'm pretty sure that that's this one. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I can't remember the names of the colours, but the yellow and the black colour, they don't have a huge colour palette, so you soon figure it out. And it's got this colour work on the sleeves, and that colour work is also repeated down here on the waist. It sort of looks a little bit like a little crown or something. And I only ever made one piece from this pattern. You can see it's got a little bit of a square neck, and it does do up, but I'm actually pretty warm, so I'm considering taking it off. But yeah, so this is one FO, but it's an old ancient FO. I do get quite a bit of wear out of it. It's warm, but it's not as warm as wool, so it's good in between piece. And the brooch that I've got on, I don't know if you can see that, it's on a piece of wood and it's hand painted. The sunrise coming over the snow-capped mountains, and I bought that recently at a market in Mossvale, and it's just beautiful. I love it. And the woman that made it was selling them at the market, and she was a delight. She was dressed up as a fairy with some of the most spectacular fairy wings I've ever seen. And my next defo, excuse me, tea time. The tea I'm drinking actually is an organic white tea with ginger and pear, and it is amazing. I'm fully addicted to it, and it was actually sent to me by the same lovely person who sent me these yarns, and she sent me a whole box of this tea, and I'm so glad she did because it's my all-time favourite at the moment. I can't stop drinking it. I'm going to be so sad when it runs out. In my little foxy mug. So let's get on to these FOs. I've made 2 of this piece. They don't take particularly long to knit, and it's an easy pattern. It's quite intuitive, and it's a pattern that I've written. It hasn't got a name yet. I'm still trying to think of a name for it. I don't even have a working title for it. Often when I'm writing a pattern, I'll have a working title for the piece I'm making, and then I'll think of a permanent title afterwards, but I haven't even done that with this, so I'm hoping inspiration will strike me soon, so I would like to release the pattern. It's an asymmetrical textured knit shawl. It's knit flat back and forth, and this one is particularly huge. It's much bigger than my wingspan, so I can't hold it all out. And I don't know how well the texture is going to be apparent in this colour, but I'll hold it up closer to the screen in a minute. So, apologies for that big glare down the middle of the screen. I'm not sure how to avoid that. The lighting does not want to play. Okay, you can sort of see it there. Obviously I've got the lace section, and there's this vertical stripe section and some other textured stitches throughout, and it's, I don't know how well that shows up, but it's an asymmetrical style, and it's very long. I just measured it before, and it's about 220 centimetres long at the longest point from tip to tip, and it's beautiful and snuggly and warm. I want to take photos of it first before I wear it and get it covered in dog hair and stuff. There you go, pretending that big glare isn't down the middle of the screen. And the yarn that I used for this one is a pretty special yarn. That's a new yarn, newish. It's maybe been out for maybe a month, and it's by a company called Wool Days, and I will put a link to it in the show notes so you can find it as well, and it is seriously gorgeous. Oh my god, it is literally like a little cloud. It's 100% merino, and it's single source Western Australian certified biodynamic merino. That is a mouthful. And it's processed minimally following organic standards in New Zealand. It's a 50-gram ball, you get 104 metres, it's a DK weight yarn, but it's quite a heavy DK weight yarn because it's quite fluffy. It's not fluffy, but it's squishy, and it's quite a heavy DK weight yarn, which is just beautiful. It recommends you use 5mm needles. I used 5.5mm needles on this, and it's given it a beautiful fabric, but still with a bit of drape to it. And you can order it online. I don't know that there's any physical stockists at present, but you can order it online and they ship internationally, and it's just beautiful. The colour that I've got here is called Blueberry, and it's what I would call a junior navy. It's not a full navy blue, but it's also not a bright blue or a mid blue or anything. It's definitely what I would call a junior navy. Sometimes see this colour referred to as French navy as well, but it's definitely what I would call a junior navy, which is like a bright navy, and it's called Blueberry, and it is just gorgeous, absolutely stunning. So that is this, and I've also made another version of it in a different type of yarn just to see how it would go, and this one hasn't been blocked. I only just cast it off last night before I went to bed, and it's a very different yarn, and it's come up as a very different result. So you can probably get a much better idea of the pattern texture from this one. You can see there's lots of different things happening in it, and it does need blocking, this one. The one I did in the Wool Days didn't really need blocking, but I blocked it anyway. But this one urgently needs blocking. So yeah, you can get a much better idea of the texture in there. This yarn is the Claqueton Superfine Merino. It's an Australian merino, and it's produced in the north of my state, and it's really beautiful. It's really soft and buttery, and it's really springy and quite magnificent, and almost feels like it's got cotton in it. It doesn't, it's pure wool, but it has that feel to it, and it comes in 65 gram balls, so it's a little bit bigger than your standard ball, and this took just under 3 skeins to make this huge long shawl scarf wrap. I don't know what you call it, and I measured this one and it's about 2 meters long pre-blocking. This one took about 370 meters of yarn, and this one took 440 meters of yarn, so a little bit of a difference, but quite a different result as well. So I'll be releasing that pattern soon, and when I do, I will have several copies to give away to viewers, but I'll tell you more about that in the future. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now I'll give you a little bit of a weather report, because, you know, that's what I like to do. It's almost winter, it's about 2 weeks away from being winter, and I wore a t-shirt yesterday. It's t-shirt weather, and I wore no socks, and I wore open shoes. It's very warm for this time of year. We've broken all sorts of weather records, because we've had the hottest night ever recorded in recorded weather history in Australia, for this time of year, obviously, and we've had a little bit of rain. It's been incredibly windy. There's lots of trees down everywhere, and we've had a few days where it's really poured, which has been awesome. The garden is so happy about that, and I'm happy about that too, because I quite like the rain, and I just got some new waterproof shoes, so can't wait for it to rain more so I can go around splashing in puddles. And today I'm looking out my window here, and it's magnificent. The sky is pure gorgeous blue, not a cloud in sight. There's an ever so slight breeze and the sun is shining. It is just beautiful. It's going to be about 22 degrees today. It's still the morning, so it hasn't quite warmed up to its full potential yet. And I'm really enjoying it. And I've looked at the long range weather forecast, and we're not really in for any outrageously cold weather anytime soon. The only problem with that is that I'm really not getting a lot of use out of my hand knits because it's just too hot to wear wool, so hence why I've got this cotton piece on. But even this, it's going to be too hot to wear this for the rest of the day, I think, and I've got a sleeveless dress on, so I'll be sleeveless for the rest of the day. But you know, 2 weeks away from winter, weird. I'm assuming that's climate change, but you know. And I think that's everything I had to cover today, and hopefully I'll get to podcast a little more frequently from now on. I'm going to have a bit more time where I'll have some quiet space in the house, so that should hopefully mean that I get a few more episodes filmed. So thank you very much for sticking around. I know this was a bit of a long episode, and I'll see you again soon, and I hope you have got lots of crafty things happening in your life at the moment, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.